It's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare. Let me give you 31 horror movie recommendations for this Halloween. Hi folks, Harry here, and today I'm going to be trying something a little bit new on my channel. So if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Harry, or otherwise than these, and I typically make videos about these beautiful books that are behind me. But I also happen to be a horror movie enthusiast. Last October, I did videos ranking the Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, and Friday the 13th franchises. And I'm not planning on doing anything like that this year, but what I have done this year is compiled a list of 31 horror movies that I think would be perfect to watch this Halloween. If you're not already feeling spooky, this video will definitely put you in the mood for it. Just a couple of things to say before we start the video. One, most of these movies, like the vast majority of these movies, are very modern. So if you're one of those people that only appreciates horror from the 1950s, this list is not going to be for you. And two, this is just a list of my recommendations. Some of these movies you may not like, some of them it's definitely an acquired taste. I'm not confidently saying that everyone will enjoy these movies, but it's just some recommendations that I'm throwing out to you. And I'm also not suggesting watching these movies in order every single day of October. Not suggesting that at all. It's just a list. And the movies in the list are in no particular order whatsoever. Without further ado, let's just get on with the video, and I'm finally going to give you my recommendations for horror movies for this year. I'm going to start off with 9 movies that perfectly fit the Halloween season. Number 1, Halloween from 1978, directed by John Carpenter. This movie is an absolute classic. If you have not seen this movie, I would be very, very shocked. In my opinion, there is no better movie to watch on any Halloween ever, any year. This is the go-to Halloween movie. At number 2, this one's going to be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween from 2007. This movie is grimy, it's gritty, in some ways it's disgusting, but I think this is a really brilliant remake offering new sight into the franchise, and I really appreciate the creativity that Rob Zombie brought to this film. Number 3, also directed by Rob Zombie, is 31 from 2016. This is my favourite Rob Zombie movie for so many reasons, because it's got that Rob Zombie charm. It's gritty, it's grimy, it's got that grindhouse feel, disgusting horror, but it's also set on Halloween night, and oh my god, it is an amazing movie. I can't believe this one is so underrated. Number 4, another Rob Zombie movie, The Devil's Rejects from 2005. This is the sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, but I do not like that movie. But The Devil's Rejects, you can kind of watch it as a standalone, and again, it's just grimy, grindhouse horror. It's not for everyone, but I personally really enjoy it. Number 5, Trick or Treat from 2007. This is a horror anthology movie that's just really great to watch around the Halloween season. And number 6 is another horror anthology movie called Tales of Halloween from 2016. Tales of Halloween is a little bit more out there, it's a little bit more wacky, it's a little bit more ridiculous, but in some ways I think it's scarier, in some ways I think it's a little bit more fun. Number 7, we've got another horror anthology movie. You can tell that I love these. This one is Southbound from, what year is this from? It's from 2015. Southbound's less Halloween-y, but it's more so just a horror anthology that I wanted to include next to these other anthologies. And it features multiple intertwining stories, all set on a road in a desert. It sounds really strange, but oh my god, it is worth it. It is one of the best horror films I've ever seen. At number 8, we've got Hellfest from 2018. Hellfest follows a group of teenagers who go to a horror attraction, but they start to get stalked. The Halloween vibes in this movie are incredible, so it's a really good movie to watch with friends with bowls and bowls of popcorn. And number 9, this one's very similar to Hellfest, and it is The Funhouse Massacre, and this one is from 2015. The Funhouse Massacre and Hellfest are relatively similar, but the main difference that I like to point out is that Hellfest is more revolved around the people going to the horror attraction, and the Funhouse Massacre follows the people who work there. But this one has a little bit of a twist. It is a bunch of psychopaths who escape from a mental institution and then start to kill people in plain sight as a disguise sort of within the horror attraction. It's really original and really clever. Okay, now we're getting into some more light-hearted films. Not necessarily light-hearted, but maybe for a younger audience, or maybe they're comedies. You'll get the gist. Number 10 is Coraline from 2009. This movie may be a kids' film and it may be animated, but it's absolutely horror and we should not dismiss it as not horror. I think this is a really, really good movie to watch around this season and it's very appropriate for younger viewers. I'm gonna stop with the hands because I only have 10 fingers. Number 11 is Sweeney Todd the Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007. This is a Tim Burton musical and it's just got the Halloween vibes. And also, surprisingly for Tim Burton, this movie is really gory. It's very, very gruesome, and I absolutely love that. And considering that the story of Sweeney Todd is over 100 years old, this movie does a really, really good job of updating the story for a modern audience. Number 12 is Zombie for Sale from 2019. This is a South Korean zombie comedy movie, and I don't really want to explain too much about it because it's one of those movies that I think you should just dive straight in and watch. But it's not too gruesome or gory considering that it is a zombie film, but it is so funny and in a lot of ways really, really heartbreaking. Number 13, Scream from 1996. What's your favourite scary movie? This movie is absolutely iconic. It's kind of a horror comedy. It's very satirical about the horror genre. You know what Scream is, but I'm throwing it on this list. Number 14, I'm combining this into one, but it is the Fear Street trilogy released in 2021. Considering that these are horror movies on Netflix, these are actually really, really scary and they have very, very effective horror, and I love the whole timeline situation of 1994, then 1978, then 1666. I thought it was so clever and it was really, really well done. Number 15 is actually two movies, so I did cheat a little bit there, but The Evil Dead from 1981 and also the remake Evil Dead from 2013. The Evil Dead is my favourite horror movie of all time. I absolutely love it. I can't put into words how much I love this movie. It's just kind of splatter, splatstick, horror. And then the 2013 remake of Evil Dead is just an absolute gore fest. I absolutely love both of these movies. I think they're both equally as good and they share the number one spot as my favourite horror movie of all time. Number 16 is Drag Me to Hell from 2009. Drag Me to Hell was directed by Sam Raimi, who also directed the original Evil Dead. And this is a horror / black comedy that revolves around a curse and gets quite satanic. If you like stuff with curses and black goats and satanic and demon stuff, you'll love this movie. Number 17 is very underrated, and that is the Slumber Party Massacre from 1982. The Slumber Party Massacre is just your general 80s slasher, but I think it's relatively inventive, and I really, really enjoyed it more than most slashers, so I would recommend this one. And number 18, the last kind of light-hearted movie I've got on this list, is The Cabin in the Woods from 2011. The Cabin in the Woods is a really, really great horror / sci-fi / comedy / satire, and it is so, so fun. I think this is one of the most creative horror movies I've ever seen because you think it's going one direction and then whoom, with something completely different. This is an absolutely incredible viewing experience and I could not recommend this movie enough. It takes the piss out of the horror genre so much and picks apart each of its tropes, so if you love really, really self-aware comedy horror, this one is absolutely perfect. Okay, now we're getting into the really, really scary movies. Well, horror is subjective. I personally find these movies scary. You may not, but I think if you want to get really, really scared or psychologically messed up, then these are the movies for you. Number 19 is Terrifier from 2016. Terrifier is a cheesy slasher with really, really bad acting, but the gore goes so unbelievably far, and the antagonist, Art the Clown, is one of the best horror villains I have seen from the last decade of horror movies. It's absolutely outstanding. Yes, it's cheesy, it's technically a bad film, but oh my god, is it enjoyable and is it hella original. Number 20 is Saint Maud from 2019. This movie is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's very psychologically strange. It's got a lot of religious imagery, so it might not be for everyone, but it does work with this film. And this is the only movie where I think the last second, and I mean that, the last second of the movie changes absolutely everything. It was completely genius and I absolutely love the way it was done. Number 21 is The Witch from 2015. Oh my god, The Witch is my second favourite horror movie of all time. I absolutely adore The Witch. It is set in 1600s New England. Again, it's quite satanic, but oh my god, is it so scary, it's so disturbing. You will need subtitles because the English that they use is very old English, it's very difficult to understand, and on top of that they got a really, really heavy accent, so you've got to use subtitles. But this is one of the most effective horror movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Number 22, you've got to go into this movie with caution, but Hereditary from 2018. Hereditary follows a family grieving the loss of their grandmother, but it is so much more than that. It is so psychologically insane. This movie absolutely fucked me up. This movie has impacted me so much. I constantly think about it. It constantly haunts me. It will never leave my mind. This movie is a work of art, but oh my god, it is very, very disturbing. This is just reminding me of all of the movies that have screwed me up. Number 23, I think it's 23? Yeah, 23, is The Babadook from 2014. You may go into The Babadook thinking that it's your regular creature feature, but it, again, like Hereditary, it is so much more than that. It is about grief, and just in general, it's really, really miserable. And it is so unbelievably original and really, really creative, so I cannot recommend The Babadook enough. I personally think that this type of horror is very scary, very effective, and very, very disturbing, but you may not find it like that. Hereditary, you will find it disturbing. The Babadook, it's a little bit more subjective. And number 24, we've got a movie that I watched very, very recently, but I immediately fell in love with, and that is Gonjiam Haunted Asylum from 2018. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum is insane. It is a Korean found footage horror film, and this movie absolutely blew me away. It is so unbelievably scary, it's chilling throughout, but it also adds a really new, interesting element of the found footage genre that I absolutely adored. Oh my god, it was scary though. It was so scary. The South Koreans know how to do horror, so basically, if you want to watch a scary movie this Halloween, watch any South Korean horror film. Another really good one that I didn't include on this list, but I'm just going to mention here, is Train to Busan. Train to Busan is a really, really great zombie Korean horror film. It doesn't really fit the Halloween vibe, so that's why I didn't include it on this list, but oh my god, it is worth a watch. At number 25, I'm going to cheat a little bit because it is two movies. It is Ring from 1998, the Japanese movie, and The Ring, the 2002 American remake. I find that the Japanese Ring is more of a thriller and The Ring is more of a horror. But these are very rainy, dull, miserable horror movies, and they're really, really scary as well. I think that the Japanese original is really, really scary, and the American remake is probably just as scary, but I like both for very different reasons. But I like them both equally, so I'm throwing them both on this list. You gotta watch them both. Number 26, you've probably seen this, but I'm putting it on the list anyway, The Conjuring from 2013. The Conjuring is your standard ghost movie, and it's relatively tropey, but it's just done so well that it definitely deserves a spot on this list. There are 8 movies in this franchise, some of them really, really good, some of them relatively bad. My favourites from this franchise are The Conjuring, Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, and funnily enough, The Curse of La Llorona. Everyone hates that one, but I love it. But I think that the Conjuring movies are really, really good movies to watch at Halloween. And at 27, we've got The Blair Witch Project from 1999. This is another found footage horror film, and you've probably seen this, but it is just really, really effective horror. It's so well done, and I cannot recommend it enough. To end this video, I have 4 movies which are adaptations of the work of Stephen King, who is my favourite author. So at 28, we've got the adaptation of Gerald's Game from 2017. Gerald's Game was directed by Mike Flanagan, who also directed the adaptation of Doctor Sleep. He also did The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix, and also the new series on Netflix, Midnight Mass. Mike Flanagan is one of my favourite horror directors, possibly my favourite horror director. He just knows how to do really, really effective horror. And Gerald's Game was absolutely incredible. It's one of my favourite Stephen King adaptations. Number 29 is Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining. While the book and the movie are very different, and Stephen King himself says that he hates the movie adaptation, I consider them both very, very different entities, and both are incredibly effective horror for very different reasons. The Shining movie is just so cold, it's brutal, it's absolutely insane, and it's very disturbing. And if you haven't seen it, I'll be very surprised. Number 30 is Brian De Palma's 1976 adaptation of Carrie. I think Carrie is one of the most important horror stories ever told, and it's definitely a really, really good movie and book that you should familiarise yourself with. It's got really, really great paranormal aspects, so if you like things like Stranger Things, Carrie would be perfect for you. And finally, for the last movie that I'm going to recommend on this list, number 31 is the 2017 Andy Muschietti adaptation of Stephen King's It. It is a movie that is very close to my heart. It was my first ever horror film that I watched with my best friend, I think Halloween 2018. Yeah, I know, I've only been a horror fan for like 3 years. Don't judge me, I'm young, okay? But because this was my first ever horror film, it just has a really, really special place in my heart. And also, it's very scary. It does rely a lot on jump scares, so if that's not something that you like, then maybe this movie isn't for you, but I absolutely loved it. Okay, that is my list of 31 horror movies that you should watch this Halloween. Like I said earlier on in this video, I usually make videos about books and not movies, so I'm not really used to talking about movies on this channel. So let me know if you enjoy this type of content in the comments down below, because I would really like to know. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a big fat thumbs up, it really helps the channel. And please consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like these. All of my social media links, so that's my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Letterboxd, TikTok, all of that is in the description down below. Specifically for this video, my Letterboxd is really important because every single time I watch a movie, I log it on Letterboxd and I review it. So if you want to keep track of that, follow me on Letterboxd. And I will see you next time with another video. Happy Halloween.